In this video, we're going to cover meta keywords and meta description tags, also known as a snippet. Now, for some people, you are probably not familiar with the word snippet. I will explain as we go. But one thing I want to point out right off the bat is that while we can, of course, go into our HTML editors, whatever we're using, and type in our HTML, if you're not a coder, this is a very important step to remember, and that is the order. A lot of people give no thought whatsoever to where these titles are actually put in the code, the keywords, and the meta description tags. I have seen these kinds of tags so deeply buried below JavaScript and Overture tracking URLs and Google AdWords tracking and Flash movies and pictures and layers and templates. It's incredible how deep they've been put and forced down with the constant changes by webmasters and code. So what I want to say here is get them to the top. Make it easy for the spiders to find them. And I am a very, very big fan of getting the meta tags right smack up against the title tag, right in there. So I'm going to do a couple things simultaneously. One is for people who are not that familiar with HTML, what's important if you want to now go ahead and add a meta description tag and a keyword meta tag, simply hit your return key and get that cursor flashing right on the next line below title. Now, if you are a webmaster or designer and you want to go in and clean up some of your tags, simply copy and paste them up here. They're certainly buried down there somewhere. I know a lot of websites are done that way. Having said that, let's go back to the design view of Dreamweaver. And you may recall that over in our little template over here, if you will, we have our text metadata and links. And I'm now going to go to my next one, which is the meta description. Now, I'm going to do this one slightly different because Dreamweaver has some built-in forms or boxes, if you will, where we can actually put this code. So I'm going to carefully take what I've already written here and paste it in that box. And I will go up to Edit this time, copy this, go back to my index page. Notice it's not saved. There's that star. And this time, I'll go up to my layout. Now, I'm going to stop here just for a moment. If you're on the Mac, you can go over to Window, and you're going to want to choose your first choice, which is Insert. And by doing that, you can then bring up your tabs. And one of the ones you want here is called the Head tab. And under that, you'll find things like meta, keywords, description, refresh, base, link, etc. And it's the same here on the PC. If I go into HTML, I get my little bar up here, and it swaps out from common, layout, etc., forms to HTML. And this is what we're looking for right here. So notice that under this one, head, if I click on the down arrow, I've got some very familiar sounding names now. Meta, keywords, description, refresh, base, link, and the like. So what we want is description. We want to put a meta description right under the title tag. So I'm going to click here. And Dreamweaver makes this really easy because now it's brought up this little box here, and I can now go ahead and simply use my Control V key on the PC, and I believe that'll be Control V on the Mac as well, and you can then paste in that code right here. Now, do I need a period here? Well, it might be nice. We can put a period in there. And let's go ahead and look at this real quick. And you are probably getting the hang of this, saying, let's see, Richard put the Santa Monica Carousel at the beginning of this description tag. I wonder if that's significant. Well, it is very significant because, again, the search engine has an algorithm, and it's going to be reading this, and it's going to be asking itself, how important is this site? Did the person who designed this site actually emphasize some of the keywords? And here's another thing that's super important, and if you're working in AdWords or Overture at all, creating creatives, you want to make sure that your keywords are in your ad descriptions, and it's the same here in SEO. You want your keywords to reflect what's up here in the page title. You want to repeat them, all right? And is a fan story necessary? Well, I think it's more necessary here than probably anywhere else in the site because this is what people are going to read. People read this stuff. All right? This is one of the most highly looked at or scanned parts of the SERPs, is people tend to read this to get information before they click. So I've said Santa Monica Carousel, a fan's love story. Of all the places I can live in the Southern California or North America for that matter, I chose, and again, Santa Monica for one reason, and I repeat it, the carousel, and again, Santa Monica, and I even threw in Pier. So let's go ahead and click that. And where did it go? Well, down here in the Property Inspector and on a Mac, if you have your window open here, you can go up and open your properties, which should be right there, just like the PC. You'll see it shows up here in the property of description. Now, if we go to Code View, voila, check it out. Perfectly placed in the code view. This is exactly where we want it. We want that meta description not buried down there in that JavaScript somewhere, okay? We want it right under the title. Here's our title, and right there is the meta description of the Santa Monica Carousel. All right, now let's move on a little bit quicker, and this time I'm going to click and hit my Enter key and get my cursor on line 7 of the code because it's time to put in keywords. Now, one thing before we move on, there is always scuttlebutt. If you've ever heard that old-fashioned term there, scuttlebutt, which is basically gossip. It means gossip. And there's all this talk out there that meta tags aren't important anymore. Well, I totally disagree. So put me down in the forums, write me emails and rant and rave, say, Richard, it's just not true. Well, I disagree. I think meta tags, the descriptions are very important because whenever I do client sites, and I'm doing them right now, these rank and they show up and the clients love it. And remember, I'm trying to serve the client as much as I'm trying to serve the search engine, so I would definitely use them. Having said that, I will point out in a minute or two that we do want to take in consideration that these meta tags don't always come in pure, meaning the search engines don't always simply take exactly what you wrote there and put it in the SERPs. They create snippets. All right. And I guess what I'll do is jump over there and talk about that again before we finish up here with the keywords. And what I'm getting at, and I pointed this out earlier, whenever you see 3 dots, it means a search engine has truncated. It has cut a part of something and added some text. So here's a very good example. I'm not going to waste time going into this site, GeoCalifornia, but just know that this meta description is probably right here. Or this could be some body text, ... truncate, cut it off. There was actually more. And the search engine combined it with this right here, and there was a little bit more. So just know every time you see those dots, the search engines have taken this meta description tag and combined it with body text to create the overall description in the SERPs. And we'll talk a little bit about, well, how do you influence the search engine to write a really good one if they're combining? We'll talk about that in a very near movie. All right, let's go back over here. And now that we're here, once again, I want to click right below there, and we'll put in the keywords. I'm going to go over to our little template, if you will, and you may recall these were the keywords that I dug up with WordTracker, and I'm going to take all of these and copy them, edit, copy, go back to index, and you probably guess where I'm going with this one too. I can go over to, yet again, one of these, and this time we'll choose keywords, and we get a totally different box. Control V on the PC. And there are my keywords. I'm not going to spend time on here. We've already talked about this, but these are the ones I liked. And there we are. We're done. And believe it or not, we just finished a high percentage of what's important to the search engines. These are the official meta tags. Was that difficult? Not at all. Did you have to be a coder to understand this? Not in the least. All I wanted to point out, and I'm just going to summarize this, is that whenever you create a web page, or whenever Dreamweaver creates a web page, it's going to automatically start putting in some information or meta, data about the data, information about the information between the opening head tag and the closing head tag, which is way down here. Go ahead and bring that up a little tighter. All right. And what has to go between those tags are simply 3 things. You want a page title at the beginning, followed by the meta description right there. And last but not least, you want to add the keywords right here. And this is the preferred order for the search engines. Now, one more thing is, again, out there in the SEO world, people say, oh, the search engines do not read keywords anymore. Well, that may be true, but I have found that it's really, really cool to actually put this in because search engines change their minds. And there are certain search engines that do use meta keywords. So I would rather be safe than sorry, so I put them in. And this is a very good place. When you need to create some additional web pages, you might have to go in here and go, oh yeah, that's right. There was that whole aspect of children on the Santa Monica Pier, that kids like to go fishing on the pier. Maybe I can create something about taking kids to the pier and having them fish for halibut or going on the ride. So having these words in the keyword meta helps you refresh your memory about future pages and what you might have to optimize for, etc. All right, so this wraps up the section called meta tag keywords and meta tag descriptions. And don't forget to go into Dreamweaver and save this page, file, save, and when that little star goes away, you're all set.